Compliance expense as a percentage of assets. I mean, I ran a small entrepreneurial privately held bank, and it was a big chunk because we have, at some level, you have no choice but to do this, and you don't have JP Morgan's budget. So can you give us shine some light just on the cost burden of this? And I'm not equating that costs are bad. It's not about not complying. It's not about not catching bad people doing illicit structuring, but it's about, are we really taking advantage of the tools? What do you have to say on that?
It's a great question. I don't have the exact quantitative average. We could look into that. We do surveys of our members all the time. We'd be happy to do that. We did do an overall compliance burden survey recently and found that north of 40% of senior management and board time, more than 15% of the IT budget of these institutions is all devoted to regulatory compliance. I will tell you, though, it's extraordinary for the AML, right? And it's not just extraordinary in the sense of the relative amount of compliance resources that AML chews up. It's where those resources are deployed, right? And they're currently deployed in the most anachronistic, wasteful way, as a general matter. And that is a function of the bank examination framework, where examiners come in the cloak of secrecy, with no transparency, have private conversations with bankers, have private conversations with AML staff, and for all of these examiners, the most minor noncompliance, technical noncompliance, generates.
Subscribe, God bless you. What's up, my fellow patriots? This is America Truth Channel, your voice for truth, freedom, and putting America first. Today, we're diving into a clip from a House Financial Services Committee hearing that perfectly shows why our banking system is drowning in bureaucracy, why big government is failing us, and why the radical left's policies are making everything worse. Representative French Hill from Arkansas asking a banking expert, Ari Redbord from TRM Labs, can AI bring some solution to the mess of banking compliance and anti-money laundering rules? Let me tell you something straight up. As a proud right-wing patriot, constitutional conservative, and someone who loves this republic more than anything, this hearing clip is both hopeful and infuriating. Hopeful because Republicans are finally talking about innovation and efficiency. Infuriating because it exposes decades of Democrat incompetence, globalist overreach, and a system that's been weaponized against everyday Americans while letting real criminals slide.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Davidson. It's great to have this very informed, smart panel with us today to help us sort through reforms to our AML regime. Of course, this regime is as old as Joe Biden's public service in 1970, 1972, and here we are on the 25th anniversary of 9/11 coming up in September, and something we're working on in our Intelligence Committee is a report on assessing how intelligence has changed since 9/11, and did it even comply with the 9/11 Commission report? The short answer is no, we are not in compliance with the 9/11 report. But all these things mean that technology is such a fundamental component, and using it for compliance and using it for smart work, I think, is so key. And I would argue that the current Bank Secrecy Act regime for banks is not taking advantage, of the fact that we have technology and we have a lot of new tools. So I want to start, Mr. Court, with you. Can you put in the record today just a scale of the compliance burden that the Bank Secrecy Act puts on a bank? And if you would, and you can submit it for the record too, I'm asking questions like, well, what is the share of compliance with BSA, which includes KYC and obviously anti-money laundering rules in the bank, as a percentage of the total compliance budget of a typical bank? Or staff levels as a percentage of the staff at the bank? Or expense, this kind of compliance expense as a percentage of assets? I mean, I ran a small entrepreneurial privately held bank, and it was a big chunk because we have, at some level, you have no choice but to do this, and you don't have JP Morgan's budget. So can you give us shine some light just on the cost burden of this? And I'm not equating that costs are bad. It's not about not complying. It's not about not catching bad people doing illicit structuring, but it's about, are we really taking advantage of the tools? What do you have to say on that?
It's a great question. I don't have the exact quantitative average. We could look into that. We do surveys of our members all the time. We'd be happy to do that. We did do an overall compliance burden survey recently and found that north of 40% of senior management and board time, more than 15% of the IT budget of these institutions is all devoted to regulatory compliance. I will tell you, though, it's extraordinary for the AML, right? And it's not just extraordinary in the sense of the relative amount of compliance resources that AML chews up. It's where those resources are deployed, right? And they're currently deployed in the most anachronistic, wasteful way, as a general matter. And that is a function of the bank examination framework, where examiners come in the cloak of secrecy, with no transparency, have private conversations with bankers, have private conversations with AML staff, and for all of these examiners, the most minor noncompliance, technical noncompliance, generates the most volume of work, right? And so we have these institutions who are deploying financial crime fighting resources, and instead of devoting them to like high-risk activities where they can be effective, they end up devoting them to low-risk activities where all they're doing is trying to make their examiner happy.
Yeah. Well, I'll always put this in the record, every one of these hearings. We've had a lot of hearings on this subject in the decade I've served in Congress. And I literally had an examiner say to me one time, boy, you've got a real problem with AML BSA compliance. Really? God, what's up? He goes, well, banks your size across the country, my bank is in Little Rock, Arkansas, across the country, they file an average of 10 SARs a month. I said, well, maybe I don't do business with criminals. Why are you imposing on me a standard that's not a legal standard? I'm complying with the law by reporting suspicious activity as I see it. And they're holding me to an invisible standard that's ridiculous. And it just seems like it forces banks to generate a bunch of enormous false positives. Oh, yeah, we collected this stuff, but, of what value is it? So let me turn to you, Mr. Redbord, and thank you for TRM's extraordinary services to the American people in tracking and mapping illicit finance networks. We appreciate that. But can't AI bring some solution to these common sense
Sir, it is the solution, and we definitely go into, I know I only have a couple seconds, we go into depth in our written statement, but it's a combination of things. Every federal agency should be using these tools today to go after bad actors who are using them at scale. And every financial institution should have this as part of their compliance playbook, right? Running AI over these enormous data sets to find the signal in the noise. Thank you, sir.
I look forward to studying your testimony in detail. I really appreciate this panel. I yield back to the chairman.
Representative Frenchel starts by noting that our AML regime is as old as Joe Biden's public service, back in the 1970s. Boom. Right there. That's the problem. Our financial rules haven't kept up with the modern world, just like the rest of the bloated federal government. The expert talks about how banks are buried under mountains of data, filing millions of suspicious activity reports, SARs, every year, most of which go nowhere. He says AI can help find this signal in the noise. Representative Hill is spot on pushing for this. See, this is what real leadership looks like. A Republican congressman asking tough questions about using cutting-edge American technology, AI developed here in the USA by brilliant innovators to make government and banking more efficient. Not bigger government, smarter government. That's conservative principles at work. Limited government, free enterprise, and results over red tape. But let's get real about why this system is broken in the first place. For years, under Democrat administrations Obama, Biden, Harris, we've seen our banks turned into the eyes and ears of the surveillance state. Massive compliance costs get passed on to you, the small business owner, the family trying to save for a home, the retiree on fixed income. Meanwhile, what do they do about actual threats? Nothing. Open borders under Biden let in millions of illegal immigrants, including who knows how many criminals, terrorists, and cartels flooding our country with fentanyl. That money from drug cartels? It's laundered somewhere, folks. Chinese espionage and influence money? Flowing through our system. But instead of securing the border and going after real bad actors, The left obsesses over equity in lending, harassing conservative organizations, and forcing banks to play politics with ESG scores and climate risk nonsense. That's not compliance. That's tyranny. The expert rightly points out that AI should be part of every financial institution's playbook, running over enormous datasets to spot real threats. I love this idea. American tech leading the way. Private sector innovation solving problems created by government overreach. This is why we fight for deregulation that makes sense. Not the reckless stuff the left does, but smart reforms that protect national security without crushing Main Street. Representative Hill yielding back. Classic. But the bigger picture? Republicans in Congress are trying to modernize this 50-year-old system while Democrats defend the status quo that benefits their donor class in big finance and globalist institutions. Patriots, let's break this down further. Anti-money laundering laws were meant to stop drug lords and terrorists. Noble goal. But like everything the feds touch, it ballooned into a compliance nightmare. Banks spend billions every year on people and systems just to file reports that the government barely reads. It's inefficient, it's wasteful, and it's un-American in its current form. As a right-wing patriot, I say, use AI? Absolutely. But don't stop there. Secure the border first. You can't have effective AML when you've got millions of unvetted people pouring across the southern border. Cartels are making billions on human trafficking and drugs. AI and banks won't fix that. Only strong borders, walls, and deportation will. Trump understood this. America first means sovereignty first. Cut the red tape. Reduce the burden on community banks and credit unions that serve real Americans. The big Wall Street banks can afford armies of lawyers. Small banks can't. This hurts rural America, small businesses, and conservatives who get flagged for wrongthink. Target real enemies. Focus on nation-state actors like China, Iran, and Russia laundering money. Focus on fentanyl precursors from communist China. Stop using the system to target parents at school boards or pro-life groups. The weaponization of finance under the left is disgusting. Innovation over regulation. America invented the internet, AI, and modern finance. We should lead the world in crypto and blockchain for transparent, secure transactions, not let the Biden crowd regulate Bitcoin to death while ignoring real illicit finance. The left wants you to believe more government control and more rules equal safety. History proves them wrong every time. Look at the inflation, the debt, the border chaos under Biden. They break it, then act shocked when we want fixes. This clip shows glimmers of hope. Republicans like French Hill are asking the right questions. But we need more. We need a full overhaul, America First financial policy that protects our people, rewards hard work, and uses the best technology without turning banks into extensions of the deep state. If you're tired of government waste, open borders, and rules that punish patriots while criminals laugh, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Comment below. Should we use AI for banking compliance? And more importantly, when are we securing the border and draining the swamp for real? God bless you. God bless the United States of America. This is America Truth Channel, fighting for truth, liberty, and the American way. We'll see you in the next one. Keep the faith, patriots.